Hello everybody and welcome to another video. If you're wondering what this video is going to be about, well, it's going to be about the blockbuster movies of 1975, particularly the summer of that year. And what a summer it was for all the blockbuster films that were released that year. It was an absolutely brilliant summer of movies. Who can forget the summer blockbuster of that summer, Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg. That movie, when on release, terrified everybody. To see an unseen menace of a killer shark chomping on its victims. Who can forget that? It was an absolute brilliant movie. A real blockbuster of that year. Still, Steven Spielberg had directed many of blockbuster films over the years, but that one was the best. Of course, it was his first real go at directing a really big movie, and what a movie it was. Like I've said, it frightened the life out of everybody who saw it. There was queues all around outside the cinemas when that was released. Everybody was terrified. And who can forget as well John Williams, who scored the music. That theme, it terrified everybody. That was truly the blockbuster of 1975. And let's not forget also The Godfather Part 2, starring Al Pacino, from the other Godfather film, the other blockbuster film of the early 70s, starring Marlon Brando. This went on to also be a blockbuster. Al Pacino, he was absolutely brilliant in that. Who can forget his performance in that? And then we also had One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Jack Nicholson. He richly deserved to win his Oscar for that performance in that in the following year, in 1976. And brilliant performance by him, and of course we know what a brilliant actor he is. He's been in many films, and another blockbuster of that year. And let's not forget Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That caused controversy when it was released, and that was turned out to be another hit of that summer. I don't know why it was so controversial, but it was. I suppose if the young whippersnappers of today was to see that movie, they would find it offensive. And let's not also forget the other one that we had in that year, Tommy. Roger Daltrey was in that. That was another one. That was another blockbuster hit of the year. Those films I mentioned, like I've just said, were blockbusters of that summer. Unlike today, those films had great directors and great actors. But today, what have we got today? Well, all the films they made today are all woke. Those films I mentioned were not. There was nothing woke about them. There was no wokeism back then in 1975. If anybody mentioned about the word woke, the people, the generation who lived through the 1970s would have looked at them and said, "What are you talking about? What does that mean?" That probably would have had them dragged off to the funny farm. But like I've said, today's movies are just woke. They've got to send out the message. Everybody's got to get their message. Well, those films, there was nothing woke about those films back then in 1975. There was nothing at all. Like I said, there was no wokeism back then. Everybody who went to the cinema that year in 1975 went to be entertained. They wanted to see a great movie, unlike today's movies. I mean, back then they had, like I've said, they had brilliant actors, but today what have you got? Well, nothing. They're not actors today. I'm afraid Hollywood has forgotten how to make proper movies. If those movies were made today, then there would have to be a lot of changes, wouldn't there? A lot of changes into today. They was made today, and they wouldn't be such blockbuster movies if they was made today. They'd have to have censorship imposed on them. Especially One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest, starring Jack Nicholson. In that one, he pretended to be mentally ill, and he wasn't. They couldn't make that film today. They wouldn't be allowed. It would be offensive to the people who have mental illness. They wouldn't be allowed to make it today. And I doubt very much if The Godfather Part 2 would be allowed to be made either. Because of all the violence that was in the films. And especially Jaws. They wouldn't be able to make that today. Well, if they tried to make do a remake, then, well, it wouldn't be such a hit as that one was in 1975. I suppose if they did try to make a remake of Jaws and the other films I've just mentioned, well, apart from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, then there'd certainly be a lot of changes in those movies. Like I said, they wouldn't be allowed to be made today, especially One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The Hollywood of today, they've forgotten, like I've said, they've forgotten how to make good movies, blockbuster movies like they used to back then in the 70s. They've forgotten how to do it. But today they haven't got the actors like they had back then. Today they're more wokies. They just, well, if you say the wrong thing today, you're cancelled. They want to cancel you. Well, anyway, that's the end of my video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all again in another video.